We reflect on America's history.
Yes.
And we think about, and so obviously it's complicated for black people because that history didn't include us. Mm-hmm. That history had us as 3/4 of a people. That history has us enslaved for many years.
3/5.
Mm-hmm. 3/5 of a people, yes.
I mean, either way you break it, it's still bad. But
And that history had a lot of massacres that took place. One of the most well-known being the Tulsa Massacre. But so, right now in Oklahoma, they have a guy that's the head of their public school system. He's the superintendent. He's somebody that's a big fan of Donald Trump. He's one of these racist right-wing Republicans. And so he was asked about, okay, if there's no CRT, if there's no analysis around race, how can you teach the Tulsa Massacre? And he had a response to that.
Not only did he have a response, he had Jesus Christ.
Audacity.
The caucasity.
The caucasity.
May God help us all.
And his name is Ryan Walters. Let's put his name out there.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, Ryan Walters is a raging bigot. And here we go.
Massacre not fall under your definition of CRT?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't address that part. I would never tell a kid that because of your race, because of your color of your skin, or your gender, or anything like that, you are less of a person or are inherently racist. That doesn't mean you don't judge the actions of individuals. Oh, you can absolutely. Historically, you should. This was right. This was wrong. They did this for this reason. But to say it was inherent because of their skin is where I say that is critical race theory. You're saying that a race defines a person. I reject that. So I would say you be judgmental of the issue, of the action, of the content, of the character of the individual. Absolutely. But let's not tie it to the skin color and say that the skin color determined that.
One more follow-up. How does the Tulsa Race Massacre not fall under your definition of CRT?
I answered it. That's my answer. And again, I felt
the Tulsa Race Massacre was a race massacre. How does it not fall under CRT?
I've answered your question. I do appreciate very respectful.
The 100 years of silence was about race. How does that not fall? How does that not qualify for CRT?
I appreciate your question. I'm going to give some other people some.
He was like,
Tulsa race.
I appreciate when people show up to these conservative places.
Yes.
And push back and be like, bro, this is stupid.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. It's literally called the Tulsa Race Massacre. That's the name of it.
They were talking about Grand Prix. It was NASCAR, bruv. Bootlegging or something. I don't know. Like that.
And it's like, but again, this is the idea, or this is the mentality of why for hundreds of years, children that went to school in Tulsa, Oklahoma were not taught about this history. And so to actually say or believe or, white splain, is that what he's doing? To
whitewash.
Whitewash, right. To say like, oh, these were just bad people and they did this to them. Well, why? Why were they mad?
I do want to say in response to what he was saying, because I agree when he says race doesn't define people, but I disagree with his use of that statement.
Right.
Because what he's essentially saying is that because race doesn't define people, we don't have to talk about the place race takes in American history.
Correct.
But it's like, while race doesn't define people, it does define a practice.
Yes.
That has been evident since
Treble.
it started.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So 100%. I feel like we need to start separating the two. Yes, it doesn't define the people. It defines the practice, and we need to talk about that practice so people are aware of how it takes place in their everyday life.
100%. But also, too, it's like if something is defined as a race massacre, and by all accounts, I mean, there are people still alive that were victims of the race massacre. By all accounts, these black people were attacked by white supremacists because they were black people that had wealth, that had money, and white people didn't like that, right? To say have a conversation around the killing of Emmett Till and take out race. Oh, he's some kid whistled at a woman. These people didn't like it, so he was killed. And take the context of race out of it is to actually you're lying at that point. You're not teaching the truth. You're not actually letting people know the truth, but at the same time, because the history falls against a lot of this ideology that these white men are trying to bring into, like the ideology is the same. The ideology that led to the Tulsa Race Massacre is one that Ryan Walters, I would say, he possesses, which is why he doesn't want the Tulsa Race Massacre taught, because that same practice, not only is it happening today, but that he's participating actively in that same practice. Miracle, is there anything like I mean, what do we do when like this guy is the head of all of the schools in Oklahoma?
So my family,
we just moved.
No, we just you have to stay. Not everyone is able to flee and has the privilege to move out of the grasp of white supremacy. But Absolutely. One of the things that my family would do, we would watch Mississippi Burning, we would watch Rosewood, we would watch a lot of these movies and documentaries about the racism that happened and occurred. A part of it because a lot of members of my family have been directly impacted. People have been disappeared by the Klan. And so we had ongoing conversations about what the history of this country actually means and how it shows up. And I think a lot of people in Oklahoma are really wrestling with, one, I don't want to know because I don't want to be responsible, because at the same time, there are people who were suing, trying to get reparations for what happened to the community was called the Greenwood community. And the judge just this week basically said, no, you cannot get your reparations and you cannot bring this lawsuit for the city and the government to pay you for your pain and suffering. Because a lot of there's a few survivors of this massacre who are still alive today.
Right.
And so that's also a part of it, is people do not want to be accountable and responsible for the pain and harm they've caused to Black people. And a lot of the fight around education is because a lot of people still have rights to these wrongs that were done to them, and people do not want Black people getting reparations.
Right.
That's why even, in California, where people are talking about doing reparations, there are organizations popping up to push back and say, hey, no, this wasn't about race. And even if it was about race, we need to just move past it, because people don't really care about the livelihoods of Black people. And I always find it interesting that we preach accountability and responsibility for all communities, except when it's time for people to be accountable for Black people and the harm they've done to Black lives.
Right, because if I teach that white people actually did this because of race, then the question is, okay, well, how is this being repaired? Right? And it is wild that the same week that he mentions this, it says an Oklahoma judge dismissed the reparation lawsuit filed by the last 3 known survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre on Friday. And so, like, on one hand, you're saying, oh, you can teach about what happened in Tulsa, but you can't teach children that skin color had anything to do with it. These are just bad people and good people, quote unquote. And at the same time, it's, oh, well, why? So we don't have to pay reparations to these last 3 known survivors